Yeah, so um, morning, good evening, uh, depending on the time you want. Hope you're good. Yeah, so it's this team again, team Empower here, and we have some new faces here. We want to introduce before we come to our agenda of the day. That is discussion of the Constitution and breaking it down. So we have our friend here that is Huntington. Yeah. So Huntington, maybe you can get introduce yourself, and then we'll proceed.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Arlington Carlos Otieno. I've been partly friends with this group, Bella, Niken, Julius. And it's quite pleasure. Please, I'm also adding another friend into my
Sure.
circle. So I've been following this podcast for quite a while, and it has come to my realization that this is should always be the second home. That at least I'll be spending a big part of my weekend. Maybe I'll just to promise the group. I'll always be there anytime you need me, and maybe channel my contribution, be it physically, mentally, and I see a light at the end of the tunnel. That is what I can say for now.
Okay, yeah, that is Huntington, and as he has mentioned, is a good friend of this team and also very resourceful. I believe so, and I believe that I'm part of this team,
So,
and I'm part of this group. We move ahead. Yeah, so today we want to talk about constitution, and want to break it down in very simple terms. When kila mtu anaelewa. So we don't be very secure too much technical just for this. Just reading through, and maybe members can be. I'll talk about the preamble and now chapter one of the Constitution. Those are the two sections. So I'll be reading through and what you guys just be informing me of what you guys understand by what is talking about. So for the preamble is ideally more value based. So the Constitution starts that we the people of Kenya, we the people of Kenya, one start acknowledging we acknowledge the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. That's the first statement. Yeah. Remember, start with we the people of Kenya. Then now, second thing is honoring those who heroically struggle to bring freedom and justice to our country. That's the second statement. Then the third statement is still we go, we the people are proud of ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity and determined to live in peace and unity as indivisible sovereign nation. So we start with the three things that I've mentioned. What you guys understand by them. Or let me just complete the whole preamble. Then the fourth statement is we, the people of Kenya, respectful of the environment, which is our heritage, and determined to sustain it for the benefit of the future generations. A fifth statement of we, the people of Kenya, are committed to nurturing, protecting the well being of the individual, the family, communities, and the nation. Then now there's recognize, we, the people of Kenya, recognize the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. Then also we, the people of Kenya, exercise our sovereign and in, inalienable uh, right to determine the form of governance of our country, having participated fully in the making of the Constitution. Then also we, the people of Kenya, adopt and enact and give this Constitution to ourselves and to our future generations. So those are the values that the preamble starts with. So we'll start off from my far left with Huntington. Maybe we can talk about, let's say, what this speaks to you. That's to the first statement, acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. What do you think? What do you understand by that?
Okay, thank you so much. First and foremost, constitution on its setup. This is the set of law that is governing the land.
Yeah.
And, there's an author from, I think it was from Oxford University, who said that a human being, for a human being maybe to have a perception, you should have a guideline. Na pengine niseme kwa Kiswahili, wanasemanga Mwafrika ili afanye kazi yake kwa nafsi ama kwa njia sawa sawa, lazima kuwe na sheria. And it was not a mistake for these forefathers bringing such a document for us, maybe to help us in our day-to-day activities. And you know, from the start of creation, somebody say a constitution is like a Bible. I think it was a quote from the Preamble. And any quotation, or rather a setup of a quote, and you see, like from the document itself, on its preamble, the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. Let me just try to end it.
Acknowledging the supremacy of mighty God of all creation.
I think I'm missing it because of the network.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe the writers of this constitution were just trying to maybe to appreciate rather to appease this document. In as much as maybe it was written by the hand rather than the value of human beings. But there's a really a jurisdiction where God plays a better part.
Right.
So that is my understanding.
I agree with that. That there has to be, even if because we have, because you see that they are very centric and they talk about God. They didn't mention a specific religion.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think as human beings, we live in higher beings. We live in supremacy. That is, there's something bigger than ourselves, and we should always appreciate that. That is, the people believe in spirituality and all other things. But at the end of the day, we have a centric. We can all agree that there's something bigger than ourselves that created this setup of the universe that we need to appreciate. I think also that's you mentioned. I think that's the case. So I'll speak on the second case, that is honoring those who heroically struggle to bring freedom and justice. So also the Constitution also appreciates that having the freedom to draft even the Constitution itself is not something that came easy. There was before the Constitution itself was drafted, there was another Constitution that before this one came into place that had to be revised. Before that Constitution was drafted, there was a lot of cities, even in the conferences like Lancaster, before now Africans gained liberation. So what they were also honoring is that it's not just something you take for granted. As you read the Constitution, you should appreciate that it's not something that came easy. It's something that people fought for, people died for, to be able to sit down and read it. It's a privilege that we enjoy as this generation, and we should honor it. That's what speaks to me in that second question. That is, in simple terms, it means that ili kuweza kuwa na sheria tunaweza kusoma na tunaweza sisi wenyewe tuliandika ama wenye waliandika walituandikia kama Waafrika na Wakenya wenzetu walionelea kwamba ilikuwa ni kitu yenye inaendana na sisi, si kitu yenye tulipatiwa yenye ilikuwa zile wakati za koloni. Yenye sisi wenyewe tukaa chini na tukaiandika tukaona inatufaa, na ili kuweza kuandika hiyo siku ilikuja kwa urahisi. Kuna watu walikufa wakipigania kupigania hiyo uwezo ya kuweza kuandika na kuendeleza sheria ya kisasa. Hivyo ndo venye pia mimi naelewa. So I'll pass it on now to Sheldon, the third preamble, that is, we the people, we are proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign.
So to me, what I understand and what the Constitution is trying to tell us is that it says that yes, it has accepted that we live with different tribes. We are living in Kenya as one nation with different religion. But how are we going to interact? Besides that, it's binding us together to come together in unity, to acknowledge other citizens, ethnic diversity, and other religion. So even if I'm a Christian, you are Muslim, or someone else has another traditional culture that he abides to, we shouldn't find something that maybe because you are Christian and are Muslim, we can't come together. But the Constitution is that binding documents that bring us together to promote the unity and to acknowledge the religion and every culture that we have in Kenya.
Yeah, so that's good. We can move on to. It also encourages, it encourages also the sovereignty of us as a nation, binds us together to live in peace also, because we have had also struggles here and there and conflicts that come out of our differences that come out of nature. The Constitution tries to encourage and bring us together as a point of law that we should work for kufanya kazi pamoja despite our differences. So Julius, we go to Julius now. I mentioned regarding now the fourth aspect, that is the Constitution mentioned that we, the people of Kenya, are respectful of the environment, which is our heritage, and determined to sustain it for the benefit of the future generation. What does it speak to the Constitution which they have mentioned? The term is respect to the environment, which is our heritage. And we are also determined to sustain it for the benefit of the future.
I think what I can just sum up from what you said, that the Constitution calls us now to act patriotic in terms of guarding our natural resources. That is for us in the present and also for the future generation. So yeah, it's just simple as that.
So we'll go to Dickens. The also Constitution mentions in the preamble, we are committed, we are the people of Kenya. It's the first statement is we the people of Kenya. That's where we are doing all this part. The Constitution draws all this part. We the people of Kenya are committed to nurturing and protecting the well-being of the individual, the family, communities, and the nation. What does it speak to you?
Okay, according to that, as Kenyans, we need to live in peace. But when one has get a problem, unaweza kuchukua huyo mtu mwingine apate first aid. Okay? For example, mtu apata ajali mahali,
Concern.
concern. Okay? Apart from that, this is also in line with the international laws, because if you look at the 2010 Constitution, one of the key factors was that they also bring in the international law. It said that the national law come first. That whatever international law will say, always the Kenyan Constitution will agree. So why am I saying that? Let me say, for example, with the reference the UN nations. Okay? The UN nations, look at their laws, they were drafted to bring peace, harmony within the society. Yeah. Unaona mtu akipigwa vita mahali, unaona mbona hii country inapiga huyu mtu sababu ya hii na hii. Mtu anafaa kuwa anaishi kwa amani mahali popote duniani. That's why they have to be happy was behind.
So I believe that that's also formidable. Then now we'll go to recognition. So we'll go back to that is my tenth and the far left still. That is unemployed.
Okay, Preamble, that is recognition.
Yeah.
So it says very clearly, recognizing the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. You see, this is a set of rules that is governing a land. And it is very clear. And actually, there are points which are very clear here. There's equality, there's freedom, there's democracy, and there's social justice. Like, example, this social justice. You see, like, let me cite an example. There is albinism. And, you know, albinism, I won't call it a defective, but this is just a natural, maybe character, or rather a gene that is maybe previsiting the man. These are people who should also be recognized. These are people who should also be appreciated. I get it. Maybe you're just different because of the color, because of the gene, or rather taste. So the constitution is very clear, and it's offering maybe the set or other objectives that will protect these people against scrutiny. So by it saying that
That is recognizes all that.
the aspirations of all Kenyans, so each and every Kenyan has an inspiration.
Be better.
Be better. You get it. So it provides with a set of values that is very fair, that cuts up
That
and
if,
about.
that if let's say we are doing business,
Yeah, exactly.
the same law will protect both of us.
Absolutely. But based on religion, based on tribe, based on color, based on all races. So I think that is where maybe
So
I'll draw my
Right.
stand.
So just to add on that, what you have mentioned regarding different forms of, and regards to diversity, because we talked about diversity, the constitution is not biased. We did mention on those different categories, it's not biased on any category. It's fair. Whether irrespective of whichever region you're coming from, all those things that Hamilton has mentioned, it is fair that everyone should be able to live there. Even if it's business, you should do that business with a lot of freedom, with a lot of equality, not cheating because you're coming from this region, this other region. Yeah. You also mentioned about the rule of law. As we all aspire and come, as we move towards our business, we always aspire to follow the rule of law and we go about law and businesses. The rule of law meaning that I should not infringe on my right, as you should not infringe on my rights while we're doing our business. So it exercises ideally, to some extent, I think it shows fairness in our all levels as we go about our business. That's what I think it communicates. So now then we go to exercising. That is now exercising our sovereign and inalienable right to determine the form of governance of our country, in having participated fully in the making of this constitution. So, when it comes to governance, it ideally formulates or lets us know that we are the people from the government, we the people of them, are the ones who determine who at the end of the day becomes whichever position we decide. So it recognizes our powers and our ability to exercise them. These powers, as we are the people who are here, we made this constitution to allocate these powers to whoever we think like. So that is also that. So it's just sisi kuweza kuwa part and parcel ya kuweza kutengeneza serikali na kuguide serikali kufanyia utendakazi. Then now we go to this one. Now the last one, and give it to now Sherlock. Then also the preamble talks about adopting and enacting. We the people adopt and enact and give the constitution to ourselves and to the people. So what does that speak to you?
What that means to me, I'll go to the biblical side. There was a time when the Israelites had nothing to follow when Moses had gone to the mountain.
Yeah.
So you could find them doing their own things, whichever they feel and whatever they wanted to do. But actually, God came up with the 10 Commandments. Then He gave Moses the 10 Commandments and said, these are the guidelines to lead us to interact well and to live on the path of God. So the same way the Constitution was written, it includes the social, economical, and political views that will enable us to reach that future. And it conducts on how we should conduct ourselves and how we should interrelate with each other. So by enacting it and adopting it is like just you are saying, these are the rules that will help us to correlate and move on in a good way. You see? So that's what adopting and enacting.
Maybe to add on that,
Yeah.
I think I'll take it as a personal acceptance. Now that you've been given this set of rules, you maybe at your personal capacity, are you taking it? Are you accepting it? And if you're ready to accept, are you passing it to
Next generation.
the next generation? So to some extent, like for how MCs do it, I think I'll say it's like a vote of thanks from my own personal understanding. Am I accepting this set of rules and laws? Am I getting it? Am I doing it? Am I putting it on practice? And after putting it on practice, will I be maybe in that capacity, or rather, the speech will need to pass
Is
this generation? Yeah, sure.
So yeah, so I think with the preamble is, to me, what I think is just setting values. That one, to me there's a couple of values that I'm getting in this preamble from these statements that I've mentioned. There's honor, there's acknowledgement, there's action, adoption. These are values. Respect. These are values that I think are very important, even on our day-to-day life as we navigate our own environment. And they are socially acceptable, legally acceptable, and also economically acceptable and politically acceptable values that we need to work. And they make things easier as we navigate our day-to-day life. They make things easier for us. And because we passed it, even if it's not ideally us, but I think when the constitution was being passed in 2010, most of us were not at the age of being able to say yes or no during the referendum. But being that it was passed, and as much as the constitution, it also mentioned, it also has a capacity of also having revision, because it's an experiment. As a constitution still has clauses that allows us to revise it. But as per now, being that the constitution is key, I think as per now is still at par, it's still good to go with. That's the value that it describes. So now we go to now the first chapter. That is the first chapter, chapter 1. The one that's also discussed regarding this. So chapter 1 talks about the sovereignty of the people and the supremacy of the constitution. The sovereignty of the people and the supremacy of the constitution. So, within the first clause that it mentioned, so this is sovereignty of the people. Chapter 1, the first clause, it mentioned that all sovereign powers all sovereign powers belong to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. Then the second clause mentions the people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. So I want us to talk about that. So we'll start off, let's say, from Dickens. What do you think? What does it mean when we allocated when it's allocates all these powers first to people
Okay.
and giving them also the right to exercise this power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. What does that speak?
Mimi kama mwananchi nikisoma hicho kipengee na naelewa kuwa wale ambao wameelektiwa
Yeah.
na ile uwezo wa kuangatua na kuchukua mwingine kae kwa hiyo position. Mimi kama kibinafsi again nina ile uwezo ya kubadilisha bado hiyo kipengee ikuwe tofauti. Kwa hivyo Kenya kwa ujumla, mimi nakuja nambari ya kwanza, alafu viongozi wanakuja nambari ya pili kama mwananchi. So nikiona kama wananchi, nikiona hata askari akiwa na mimi pale kwa soko wapi na wapi, najua anastahili kunichunga. Yale ambayo wengine wetu ama baadhi ya wengine wanaweza kuwa wanafanya mabaya kati yetu, sasa hiyo ndio inaweza kuwa kazi yao kuwatoa na kuwarekebisha na kuwarudisha. Unaelewa? So sisi kama wananchi tumepewa hicho power ya kujua tu. Mimi I just want Kenyans wajue tu we come first. Even if things go south, we still come first. Kenya must belong to Kenyans. Nimetu sasa haijaingia kwa akili ya watu vizuri juu bado naona watu wengine wanafikiri viongozi come first. Lakini once we get to understand that, then that's all I know about.
Okay. Well, anyone who has a different contribution, create.
Okay, maybe I can now add something. You know, the terms of the sovereignty came from England. And in England, they say sovereignty means kingship, or rather monarch. You know, monarch itself means like having that power to rule itself. So when they stipulated the constitution, they say I come on mention having that sovereignty, having that complete power, that complete decision. So it gives you as a commoner, it gives you as a citizen that you have that complete power to make a ruling. Like for example, during elections. So it's maybe it's not maybe inability, maybe to make a decision, maybe out of maybe favor, maybe out of know-how, but you can do it as a person to give you that confidence and responsibility to make a decision. So that sovereignty itself, maybe kwa lugha ya Kiswahili inamaanisha ile wewe kuwa na uwezo, wewe ndio una uwezo kujiamulia wewe mwenyewe.
True. Now, maybe tell me, what do you think? What do you think about that? What do you think about the two clauses that I mentioned? The first clause that is within chapter 1, that is giving allocation of that part to the people of Kenya, and the people also shall exercise according to the same rules. Then the second clause I mentioned, that easy persons that belong to the people, they can exercise.